Hey there, it's Chris. Welcome back to the next part of the Yoshitaka Amano platform project, where over the last several weeks we've been kind of doing a lot of the detail work. We've been kind of doing the building here, building the platform, building the astrolabe, and last time I realized that I think we needed a little break from that. So I went and started painting some of these elements that were actually done, and we never actually finished painting those things. So this time we're going to go ahead and see what we can do to finish painting these guys before we get back into hopefully the final construction phase of the wood part of the legs on this project, on the platform here. But first, we never finished the books. I only have one coat on here. I never did any of these guys. So let's see if we can get a little more on these guys done. Let's go bring everything down over here again. You're gonna be good. We got some books. The books can be a little on the rough side. I'm not too worried about them. I do kind of want to yellow the pages here a little bit, kind of make it, so I might just add a drop of yellow to the paint that we had on that, just to kind of give that a little older feel to it. But otherwise, I'm not too worried about second coating them. He's going to get a little bit of second coat, but we do have these extra astrolabe parts, which I can't physically install for quite a while still. We need to finish the legs first before I do the wire part of the astrolabe before these guys go on. So they're kind of going to be a little bit of a work in progress. So let's just arbitrarily start here. I'm going to put a base coat on this, and then I want to kind of darken a number of the spots in there, kind of little impact craters. So let's go put, what's this? We have the raw sienna going into here. I don't need that brush for it now. My fingers are going to turn all sorts of colors on this, which is going to be fantastic, but be prepared for that. That will be fine. And yeah, it's now physically the next day, and we got more snowfall overnight, and we have more, I believe, still coming down as we speak, although it's not, quantity wise, it's not quite what it was yesterday, but we are still getting more snow, so it's another kind of good day to be inside doing stuff like this. I still have like that guilty pleasure of having a snow day from work. I don't know, I never really disappeared from like the grade school days. You get that guilty pleasure of being home from work. Except every time it's snowed so far this year, it's been on the weekend. So that's not something that's going to happen. At least not this time. Alright, so we got a coat on that, which is good. And actually, I'm kind of okay with that color, so I'm just going to do part of this, do kind of the whole of the ship here in that color. The deck is going to be a lighter color, but I want the whole to be kind of, this feels like it's an okay range. Again, this, for these first coats here, as long as we get within the range of what we want, I'm fine with that. Subsequent coats we can work with what we have and try to get the colors 100% correct at that point, but it's nice to just get a base coat down that's close, so we have something to actually kind of work with. I guess if we're doing that, we kind of want the pole can also be the darker one. The deck can be lighter. I can maybe make the propeller blades lighter, but we can start with this, and then we'll just kind of take it from there. All right. Anything else kind of want this color while it's out? It feels so bad putting away because this thing's already halfway dry, but I'm going to come back to that one again. I just need to remember that is raw sienna for that color. Now we're going to keep the water kind of close to me because there's going to be a lot of mixing stuff and putting away because we have a lot of individual elements I want to get to. And yeah, that means there's going to be a lot of cleaning, a lot of kind of, probably once again, not so much mixing on this. If I can get things close on camera, I may tweak things off camera to kind of finish them off. But if we can get the rough color scheme kind of in here for all these elements, that's really all I'm looking for. Again, I feel like the last several sessions I've done of things. I'm trying to look for a color. What I want to do next. Might be nice to get something on you. You're going to have probably, I might give you like orangish kind of rings, but I want something. I think let's start with you, and we'll see. I don't know. I'm making up a planet color. It doesn't really matter. In the end, this one doesn't really matter. Learn to pick the battles. It's going to be something that has to kind of fall within the color range that kind of everything else is. We don't want something just like abnormally sticking out in the end. But at the same time, it's a fictional planet. And this one actually isn't in the FF5 universe to begin with, as far as I know. So it doesn't really matter what color I make this one. I don't need to make it 100% Saturn either. It can just be whatever. As long as the planet and the rings are two different colors, because then at least something can pop in that regard. And that's really what we're looking for. And actually, you know what? I kind of don't mind this color so much. Let's do another one of these books kind of in this color. It kind of looks okay. And again, if we were playing like a Family Feud or something, and someone were to say, and the question being asked is, you polled 100 people on the street, what color would they say a book is? I believe something in the red family would be one of the top contenders for that. And this is kind of in that reddish kind of family. It's not Fire Engine red, which is good. It's not Circus red, which is good, so it's not going to stand out hugely when put against the other elements. I need my glasses off for this. It's not going to stand out hugely when you put it up against the other elements, so that should be... Am I on camera? Yeah, I'm kind of on camera. My fingers do not feel super stable today. I don't know what it is. So we're trying to stabilize this hand off my other hand, which is on the ground. So this is a little awkward, but it is working. And yeah, goal today is get at least a coat of color on all of this stuff. If it winds up being 100% correct and doesn't need any additionals, that's cool. If it does, I think at this point I'll do whatever's left off camera. And then next time the goal will be to start getting ourselves working towards those legs, because they are kind of the next important thing on here. And then once that's done, that frees up kind of room for everything at that point. Then we get a whole lot more painting going. So I'm probably going to paint all this stuff first, and then 100% do mid and the clay modeling of mid after the rest of this is painted up and good. So this is just kind of like a little kind of speed bump on the way. That's all it is. We're just taking a little detour on our route to the finish line, just because, like I said, I felt like the last week's worth of videos were not that great, and we just need to pull back and take just a little bit of a break from that and get ourselves back into a happy place again before we do the final push to the finish. I'm not getting any paint on this brush. As long as I'm not getting any of my face in the camera, we good. We'll see if I get my run in today. I'm not 100% sure. As of right now, I have 21 miles for the week. The goal is to get around somewhere between like 24 to 25. Really, next week is kind of the one that counts. But so all I have left is like a little 3-mile recovery run. And if I don't get that, that's fine. Then I just don't get it. Now that said, as of when this is going live, I am going for the 26 miles right now as this is going live. And that one I would actually like to get. Every other week, I do really want to get those kind of distances. They're kind of like my checkoff weeks. But as I'm recording this one, we're still kind of in that in-between week phase where it's nice to get it, but it's not 100% necessary. As I just put in the last Ultra video that went out, we can improvise when need be, given the given conditions, whether we have weather conditions say otherwise, whether health issues and whatnot say otherwise. We can. It's not make or break whether or not we get some of these. We get every single thing we want to get done. We can make things work otherwise. That's 100% fine. Yeah, kind of like that. It's a little different than the other colors, but it's still in the color range, because our goal is to not have things that are extraordinarily far from each other. We want things to kind of be somewhat in the range of themselves. Even though green and red are on opposite sides of the color wheel, they still kind of feel like they go together. Well, they're complementary, but they feel like they go together. So I'm okay with that. I don't want to have like a yellow book or like a deep blue book or something. It would just feel off. And this guy's dry at this point, so I want to put actually another coat of the raw sienna on this one before I kind of do any detail work inside. So let's just go ahead and do that real quick. We are 11 minutes in, and I'm already doing a second coat on something. This is why these paints are so awesome. They dry like instantly. The acrylics, they're so good. This is also why I had to take a break after the primer one, because the primer coat takes close to like half hour to an hour to dry nicely enough to kind of work with that. This stuff dries in minutes. So, and yeah, I want to get a second coat on here before I start doing anything else, because then otherwise it's going to be a lot harder to get that second coat in here. Oh, I need to hold this thing a little further out so you guys can see what's going on, not just me. I don't know why I took my glasses off for this one. This one doesn't matter. I'm not exactly doing any kind of hard cut-ins right now. It's the next coat that's going to take some actual effort to maybe make things look good. This coat, don't care. Okay, let's put you down. While I have that, might as well do another one on you as well. Got the paint. Don't need to clean off a brush another time just to do this. Just trying to get the edge on there really good. Yeah, otherwise, because of the snow, today's kind of a somewhat uneventful day. Not anticipating doing much, just kind of chilling at home. Trying to get back ahead, a little bit ahead of the game on this again. Because in addition to just doing the woodworking stuff, I have definitely been falling behind. So if I can get myself just a little bit ahead, I'm going to feel a little better. Okay, got that. I think I want to get the pages on here. Just, like I said, I'll take the paint I had before, add like a drop of yellow, just to kind of get, because when paper ages, it gets that yellowish kind of hue to it. So I do want to give a little bit of that, because I want to do maybe just a little bit of text or a little bit of something on there as well. So I want to get a coat down, give it at least a little bit of time to dry before we add a little bit of detail, which might work and might not. Okay, so the goal is we just want just like a drop and not much more than that, because otherwise I don't want this yellow to take over. I just want to have a little bit of a softer look to it, and that should be fine. Again, we don't want a bright white on here. Bright white is definitely not what we're going for. Okay. But if we can kind of stay in that gray range, because again, if you look at the image on the side there, if you actually look at the books are definitely in a very kind of gray range. So if I can kind of keep that, that would be fine. Not sure about this color, but we will work with it right now, and that's okay. I might need to put, I might actually want to put like a drop of yellow or something, or a drop of white back in here again. We are quite a ways off color at this point. Okay, let's actually need to cut in the sides just a little bit, kind of nicely, to make this look good. Alright, and the back side. I do need to figure out the final book's color as well. I feel like I had a color picked out before, and then everything just got kind of mixed together. Raw sienna was not the color I had originally planned for it, but I'm not really sure what it was at this point. Okay, so now that I take that away from my face, step back a little bit, that's definitely a color. I don't know if it's the color that I want, but it's definitely a color. Oh, let's put that on the side, clean out this brush, take a look at my watch. We still have plenty of time. Yeah, we're not going to be doing huge detail stuff. Again, the scrolls I'm not super worried about because they kind of match the colors of the platform itself. So if I don't get to them in a reasonable amount of time in this session, that's 100% fine. Plus, I haven't actually carved the other two, so it's kind of awkward doing two of them and not the other two. So they may just stay white. Let's go put this on the side. So while I let that do its thing, I do want to give here my windbreak. I did do a second coat of the quote-unquote light gray. Actually, it's just gray, which is very much not gray. And I want to do his back and the other start with just the dark gray. That's going to be the start of his whole color scheme. If you come back to that, it's going to be kind of the start of his color scheme. I'm going to leave kind of his underbelly here, the lighter color, and we're just gonna go from there. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then it just doesn't. But I want to give him a little bit of playroom on this color scheme. So essentially, the upper part of him is going to be this darker gray. The lower part's going to be the lighter gray. And we're going to see how this whole thing kind of works, or doesn't work. I should be doing research on what other animals similar to this look like, but I have not done that. Because again, for a first coat, I'm not super concerned. Now, I do think that portion in its entirety can be the darker. Yeah, that can be darker. I'm going to keep the webbing on the wings lighter, but I can make the outline darker. I hope my face is not in this camera. I really do. Because it's not that far away from everything. Alright, here we go. Let's see if we can give some contrasts to some of these elements. That's going to go on this side as well. Okay, not so bad, not so bad. Again, anything that doesn't work, if it doesn't quite feel right, I can always touch this up later. That's the nice part with paint, is you can always touch it up later. If you're not sure of something, just experiment and give it a try. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Paint does not want to stick to this brush at all. So that's kind of cool. Let's get the legs, kind of the darker color here. Again, we're really just kind of looking for the bottom half and the underbelly being the color. Legs and arms can be the darker, which in retrospect I probably should have done the darker color first, but once again I didn't, because I'm mad, and that would have been a whole lot less kind of cutting involved in painting stuff. Oh, this paint does not want to stick to the brush. Sounds like a very dumb phrase, but I need to be able to get paint on the brush in the first place. So far I'm kind of liking this. I think it's going to turn out okay. Contrast might be a little much, but if I can get a color scheme kind of going first, then I'm kind of okay with that. We can always adjust, like I said, we can always adjust the colors later. We're getting a color scheme working is really what we're aiming for at this point. And of all the elements on here, this is probably the most involved. Books really aren't going to be too terrible. And Planet and Airship, although they have a couple different colors going on. Actually, each of these things really do have a couple things going on. Maybe the closed books, not so much, but actually no, all of them will have kind of multiple color, a multi-color scheme thing happening. Okay, let's try to get in here without actually hitting the webbing of the wing. Don't want to do that. Kind of making him look like what he looked like before I hardened him and before I started painting him. So that's super cool. Okay. Yeah, the webbing on the wing may actually be a third color. We're just kind of starting this right now, just kind of seeing how it feels, but that may wind up being a third color in the end. And I can already see there's going to be some definite touch-ups going on. I'm hitting some of the light stuff with here, but that's okay. I didn't plan on this being 100% done at this juncture. I should also maybe move my camera over just a little bit, because I realize I'm coming really close to me, and it would be nice if you're a little more in. What I'm working on is a little more in camera, a little more in frame. In camera is probably not the correct phrasing. Alright, there we go. We got a little foot. Yeah, I'm not sure what the historical record has for colorization of a drake. I haven't looked at the fossil record of these guys, but I'm sure it's something close-ish to this. Why wouldn't it be? I'm still pulling this close to me. I will always be me. I will never do things on camera they're supposed to be on camera. Yeah, tail is going to be a little more of a trick because it does kind of wrap around just a little bit. But that's going to be okay. Again, as long as we get the rough thing right here, I'm happy because I'm fully anticipating additional coats down the road. Yeah, let's get the face kind of right. Maybe smooth out some of these edges just a little bit. Okay. Never actually did his back. That's kind of an important part. I love every time I look at this, I find one more spot that wasn't touched. It's like, no, come on, don't miss. Or at least don't overlook a spot. No good comes of that. Okay. And now we get to the tail. I'm still bringing this thing out of focus. This coat is not drying very nicely, so it's very definitely going to need more than just this, for sure. So whatever I do on this, whether I get it right or wrong, is not going to be as important as whether I just get a nice smooth kind of seam going on here. Alright, did that. Alright, almost there. Which is good because I'm almost out of the paint inside the lid here. And if I can finish this without having to re-shake up some more, I'm going to feel okay with that, even though in the end that doesn't really matter. It's super easy to do. It just, when you're this close, it's like, no, I really don't want to. Just, we can finish, we can do it. Okay, so we have, let's put you that way. Okay, glasses back on while I clean some things out. Put you over there. I'm not even sure if I want to put eyes on here, you or not. Not even sure if I want to do that. Because again, I don't want him being super detailed when everything else kind of in here is going to be only partially detailed. Alright, we got some bright rings coming up here. So let's start with this color, which may or may not be good, but I think you're going to be very bright compared to everything else that's on here. But again, we'll give it just kind of a starting color. If nothing else, I feel like the rings should be lighter color than the planet itself. And again, I really don't want to be mixing too many things at this point. I'm just kind of using the paints that we have, and then I can always, for final coats, mix colors to make it a little more right. What color is this? This is orange. Straight up orange. Color I'm very familiar with, considering my college mascot was in orange. Struck fear in the hearts of every competitor we came up against. Although I say that half-heartedly, one of the years I was in college, my sophomore year, we kind of won the NCAA national championship. And that was an experience. That was second half of March through like early April. Nobody cared about classes. I'm not gonna lie. It was just, if you've never experienced that, there's nothing quite like it. Just classes didn't matter. Nothing else mattered. You're just glued. Everybody's just glued to a TV all the time. The only thing anybody cared about, was the tournament, and that was it. There are parties going on downtown, across campus, all around campus, and just, nobody really cared about anything else. And now apparently somebody I know is going to University of Miami right now, and I guess they're kind of also going through the same thing at the moment, only they're on the football program. And I 100% identify with the feeling of, we're just nothing, absolutely nothing matters. Except they're getting it like on the first week of classes, which is a little bit different than doing it 2/3 of the way through the semester. But I'm sure their start of the year is a little different than it ever has been and probably ever will be at this point. I can put it that way. You can kind of... I'm putting you down this side. How are we doing on time? We're already half hour in. So we're just basically getting these first coats on stuff and not going much past that. What do I have? I have a golden brown is what I want. You know what? I want to have a little bit of a contrast with the deck propellers compared to the rest of the airship here. So let's just use the mocha here instead. I was going to use a golden brown, but I think mocha is going to be the better play for making a contrasting color. I am somewhat on camera again. Alright, so the most important thing right now is cover up the white spots. Again, I probably should have done this first. It's going to be easier doing final coats on the non-deck parts, on the sides of the ship, than it is doing this. So I'm a little bit out of order on this one, but... get some propellers. Again, this is actually much stronger than it looks. I put so much glue on this thing. It's going to take a little bit of effort to break anything on here, that's for sure. Done. But still, unfortunately, we're not going to see how this thing works for some time because it's going to be pretty much the last thing that gets attached, other than making Mid himself. So I don't know if the propellers want to be lighter or darker. I just figured I'll blend them into... Stand up just a little bit, please. Can I just like stick you in here and have you kind of stand? Okay, you've probably dried off enough that you don't need to be upside down, sitting on stuff. I have the solution to that. That is, I get one of these extra books that I had made 8 blanks for what wound up being 5 books. So we can just kind of pop you on there. He's actually looking okay. I'm not feeling bad about that color scheme. I might do a little more kind of touch-ups, add a little more detail on there. But I'm going to try to figure out, I'm not going to do it in this session, but I'll give myself some time to kind of figure out how I want to change his color scheme. Okay, so the only real big thing left is we have one more book, and I do want to add a little bit of kind of text stuff to books. And you still need a little bit to go. What are we at? We're at 35 minutes. Okay, so if I want something in this color scheme, I could even, no, I don't want to do a gray. I don't want to do a gray. I don't want to do, I could try, it would probably work. The beach class might work. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. This is where we just have fun. Not sure if this is going to be appropriate for this one, but we'll give it a shot. 'Cause it does seem, I get the feeling we're going to be a little more contrasty with everything else. Plus it kind of blends in with the pages. But I could always double up on a color too. That's not really an issue. This is pretty much the exact same color as the pages. But if it kind of works, again, it's in a stack. You only really see the spine of these anyway. So maybe it'll work. Maybe it'll work. Once again, I keep moving things farther and farther off camera. Alright, so I like how I'm cutting in really neat, even though this is like the exact same color as the pages themselves, because I made the pages a variation of the beach glass. Yeah, no, my sophomore year was wild in college. It was just, looking back, that was just, so much stuff happened that year. That's the semester, yeah, we won the national championship. That was back during like the Carmelo Anthony kind of days when he had his breakout year. And yeah, it's the semester I went and I pledged the community service group I wound up staying with for, in various forms, 17 years. It started that one that semester. And at the same time, it's also the semester where we had a professor, our tech professor's overarching theme for teaching was, I'll give you a homework assignment and I'll teach you how to do it after you fail your homework assignments. And so we wound up spending a grand total of that semester 16 all-nighters in the design studio that semester, most of it due to him, while also doing the national championship and while, yeah, joining outside groups. So it was just, that wound up being, that was this semester. That was a crazy time to be anywhere. But looking back, made it somehow, survived. But it was just everything happened at once, and that book color is not gonna last. We need a little more color on that guy, I think. Well, I'll stick it in the pile. We'll see how it looks when it's put in a pile. But, yeah, no, I don't think that's gonna last. But it was worth a shot. Alright, 2 more things I want to get done, though. First, I want to add a little bit of contrast to the craters inside our meteorite there. I will be making more celestial bodies. It won't be just 3. It's just I made those 3, then I realized, wait a minute, I can't do anything with these things for weeks. So that's kind of why I didn't do any more on camera. But actually, I don't think we need to hear you on the side. We can bring you back here. And I'm just going to use a dark brown just to kind of do more subtly kind of highlights inside here. And we're going to see If this makes it better, if it makes it worse, I don't know. But we're just kind of I'm really just kind of adding a little bit to like the bottom and or sides, not much anywhere. And we're seeing if it just gives a little bit of visual interest to this. I'm not sure where light is coming from, so I'm not going super hard on this. But if we wind up being really muddy in the end, again, that's fine. This doesn't have to be. We just need some way to kind of, if you look at it, to visually distinguish that there's something going on inside here. So we can be very, very rough. If I wanted to, I could even add a little more kind of black kind of something to here to a couple of these, or I like calling a light black because I mix that either with this brown or kind of like an actual kind of grayish kind of color. And then we kind of pop that in and see. But all it is when the whole thing is painted the one similar color, your eye doesn't really read any of these little pop marks as anything. So I'm just trying to give a little more visual interest that something is actually happening. Not sure it looks any better. I think I did a. Well, no, you can definitely read it better. It's very rough, but you can definitely read that. I might need to refine how I do this off camera, but I'm not opposed to that. Okay, let's see. I actually was really bad. I was supposed to take out a very particular brush for the super fine painting job that I want to do on this next part, and I didn't do that. So, to my knowledge, I have a really, really fine brush in here. It's not in here. Give me 1 second. Let's see if I can find this fine brush. I might have stuck it somewhere separate from the others. Which I did stick it separate from the others, so I want to make sure I had this guy. And I don't think I actually want to go full black on that, so I'm going to go the dark gray here. Use this dark gray and see if I can just add a little bit of text or something to here. Let's just do a little test run on some of these. Yeah, just adding a couple little lines on here is going to help sell the idea that we have some paper going on. Yeah, just kind of a little something. So I have a little bit of wispiness. It gives kind of what we want, but you are kind of the one that gets. I don't think I put any paint on the brush. That's a problem. if this doesn't work, I can just paint right back over it. So. But the idea is just kind of give a little bit of, again, visual interest to this. Somebody kind of looks at it and then go, oh, I get it. So I had a little bit of something down there. All of a sudden I went really, really quiet. So whoopsie daisy, whoopsie doodle. So we have a little bit of text going on over there. Again, I might just go and do a wash over a lot of this stuff in the end too. And then that'll really kind of, I have too much paint on this, but that's okay. There we go. We get a little bit of text on you. That's all good. Like I said, we have a little bit of wispiness going on in the books. So I can just kind of keep doing that, go in that direction, and I think we're gonna be okay. This was somehow time just flew on this section. I don't know. Somehow time just kind of flew. I don't know where it went. But I'm glad I did this. This was a good one. Like I said, this painting part is just one of those breaks I think that I just needed. I don't know if you guys wanted that. I just needed it for a me thing. Just to get my mind off of the carving side of things, if just for a few sessions here. But at least it was kind of cool. Little book. It's got some writing and some diagrams. But needed this just for me. Okay, so if we're coming over, and I'm looking back towards you, how do our guys look over here? Now that we have something to go off of, give me one sec while I get all of my duders here ready. Let's put the red one on top. I'm losing everything. My pile of books is not stacking well. Having a light one in there is not that bad. But awesome. We're not in view. We're not in focus at all. That's super. Alright, camera, you can do this. Alright, well, while I wait for that thing to come into focus, one thing I was kind of debating whether or not to do is I know I've mentioned my finger is really bad. You haven't seen this now for like probably 3 weeks or so. So just to give you an idea of why I keep coloring this, I know I had told you last time that I had accidentally bopped my finger with a hammer about a month ago, and that's the reason I keep this covered, so you don't keep staring at this thing the entire time. Now, there's no pain involved. All it's gone. If you get a black and blue mark under your fingernail, it takes forever to go through. That's what my finger actually looks like. So it used to be nice and pink at the top, and it just now has grown far enough that the pink part has now been cut off. So now it's just pure, yeah, it's a purple finger. And it's still going to take months to go through. So I'm going to be using these Band-Aids for a while just so you don't have to stare at that every episode and every session. But that's why that is what it is. And I feel really bad ending this when everything is out of focus. But again, this camera has no buttons. It has nothing I can do. I literally can't do anything to get this into focus. Hey! It just has to do it on its own. But at least now there's life in here. We can see stuff happening. We have colors on the books. We have a little color on my windrake there. We have some of these elements coming in. So at least now there's something started on that regard. And next time we're going to start either kind of... I think I need to finish some more stuff on the platform here. Or I could either finish the back half of the platform and finish these astrolabe areas, and I can paint the astrolabe part. Or just kind of carve this bottom. Or start making the kit of parts for the legs. Either way, it's going to be more... We're getting back into woodworking and start hearing a Dremel again, going for quite a while. It's just going to be what it's going to be. But, yep, final push towards the end of that. And then all of this will be painted. And then we'll go and make mid who goes on top of this in the end. And that should be good times. So until then, and until next time, enjoy.